Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance
Assemble.
Assemble, Volume 261. And after a week of, like, as typical, either the week before, the week of, Marvel kind of goes kind of silent for the most part. And we decide to take that week off, and typically the next week we get some news, and we got a number of decent things to chew on at that point.
Yeah, they decide to have their summer vacation early, and now we're getting hit with everything, and so a lot of interesting tidbits over the last 2 weeks since we've been off.
Exactly. So, and if Jack is there, good evening, excited to hear what we have on the docket tonight. Let the geekery begin. Exactly. Now, but yeah, so summer has officially started for me at that point. I mean, I still have it. I've still worked 12 months at that point, but it's a lot more, a lot quieter in the building. Today was the official first day because staff is officially done for the year. Yesterday was their last day, or Wednesday was their last day. This is the Thursday recording, and then summer has started for you, and you are not in your normal location. For those that either are watching on YouTube or are listening to the feed, because David's audio is not altering where it was. He's in a remote location right now.
Yes, my dedication is sincere. I am not even in the country technically. I am in Mexico doing this, but I'm here for you, the people. That's what we do it for. So it's Thursday night, and here I am.
Exactly, the dedication. I was telling him where he's at that point. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I've had that dedication. I love my show and I love y'all listeners, but sometimes it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna be, as Brent would say, I enjoy sometimes going back and being a listener for occasionally at that point. But I do applaud David for his dedication to the show at that point. But yeah, so summer's begun. It's a little bit quieter. I'm starting to stress is going down a bit. So I'm even talking. I was saying to Aaron before I said I'm gonna actually start tackling some, getting back into some of my reading. I've got a lot of graphic novels. She said, "You said you got a big backlog." I said, "Honey, my backlog is so immense between video games and reading my collected editions that it'll be long into retirement before I get a chance to do it all." But you know what? I'm good with that. You know why? Because it's gonna be there, and I can grab it, and I can grab it off my iPad or grab it off the shelf, and I've got it ready to go. So I'm gonna enjoy a little bit extra free time to relax and geek out through the summer. So the summer of geek.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. That's kind of my plan as well. I've got a list of stuff I need to catch up on, and so I will be taking some time over the next couple of months and trying to chip away at that list.
yeah. So, but without further ado, like I said, we've got a number of news items to go over tonight. So, let us get into the network plug. So, we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 6 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers: a dollar tier is a tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows. We here at Marvel Alliance have done 2 shows for our patrons. We can watch this all day. The Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga Rewatched, where we looked at all the Infinity Saga in chronological order and gave our review for them. And then Tales from the House of X, where we rewatched our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. And starting next week, on Tuesday, next Tuesday, David and I will record our first episode of our newest show for our patrons, the Baxter Broadcast, the Fantastic Four Retro Film Reviews. So we will start that next week, and we are watching the seminal, unreleased, classic film, The Fantastic Four. David has not seen it. I have not seen it probably in over a decade. So I've already got it pulled up on YouTube. I'm planning also to watch the documentary Doomed as well about the filming and of the movie. So we will review that for the patrons on Tuesday night. That will probably drop in the next couple of weeks on the feeds, but we will let you know that. But it will release in June for you all patrons. So Marvel Alliance is back to doing a few patrons with our summer schedule, giving us a little extra free time.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. This is it. I shouldn't say fun. This is going to be a interesting slash memorable one.
As as Lando Calrissian said Solo, buckle. You might want to buckle up, baby.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, we will do that, and then followed by Fantastic Four 2005, Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then Fantastic Four, aka Fan Four Stick from 2015. So we will do that throughout the summer in anticipation and in celebration for the Fantastic Four first steps coming out at the end of July. So check those out. We also have the DC Alliance guys doing the DC films through the years. We've got Joe doing his Disney dives on the 1st and 15th, looking at the animation classics from the Disney animated films in chronological order on the 1st and 15th. So enjoy all that, plus the back content. We want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. And if you can't join us on, if you want to join us on Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network so you can get all that content. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. If you want to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. I have it from some good friends at OPB is saying that the updates are coming for the new pre-orders at this point. So hopefully in the next couple of days, you'll see some new omnis and collect editions coming out. But with all you see there, anytime you want to use, we've got two codes on there. Use Marvel GUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, or MGUA SIT for 5% off when you order 4 or more books together. Lets them know you're a listener, and you can also earn points to get discounts on your books. And as always, we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, so we are going to start off this on a sad note. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see our background. This a couple days ago, we received unfortunate news that the illustrious comic book writer creator Peter David had passed away. News was broke by his wife, and he had been going through over the number of years through some hard times with his health, namely some kidney disease, which is a very expensive and very debilitating procedure. Trying to get a kidney transplant, trying to battle everything that's associated with it, on top of other illnesses that he was going through. Peter David is one of those creators that just puts his hat on like kind of the who's who of comic book creators. I mean, I'll put it up here. My man co-created Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara with Rick Leonardi. You've got his illustrious run on X Factor, creating in the second volume of it for X Factor Investigations at that, and then he's got the third volume and then a fourth volume concluding his run for X Factor. But we're going to get the DC folks in here because we cannot forget with Young Justice, the lead on that series at that point. Already one volume of that in collected edition put out, but also another DC creation. And I think this is a criminally underrated run that people sometimes forget about. His Supergirl run with Linda Danvers is some of the best Supergirl that has ever been created. Most of the time, Peter David, and I saved the best for last, is associated with his Incredible Hulk run, redefining what that character was. His whole run is collected in so many different collect edition format, creating Maestro, the Future Imperfect storyline. Like, he brought something to Hulk that had not been done. He didn't create Hulk. We know who created Hulk, but he brought something that there's the time before Peter David on Hulk, and there's the time after Peter David on Hulk. And people, whoever jump on Hulk, always try to keep in mind what Peter David brought to that character, and not necessarily try to top it, but try to play umbrage to what he was able to do for all of his characters. He brought humor to his characters. He brought drama to his characters. He found a way to make you really care for whoever it was. I mean, for crying out loud, he makes you care about a mutant called Strong Guy. Like he is one of the few creators that could actually like. I think I haven't seen a person who writes for Strong Guy since Peter David that has ever gotten that character. Um, there will never be another Peter David at that point. I know it's kind of cliche to say, but like there's just something about him that no one's been able to try to channel that voice, and the community has lost a great creator. And to all his friends and family, it's a very tough loss. I don't know, David. What do you any thoughts that you have about this?
So my one of my earlier introductions to Peter David was with the Marvel versus DC run, and that short-lived thing that we're gonna be getting something close to it again if you stay tuned to our next news stories. But that was my first introduction. Absolutely loved his um, run with Incredible Hulk. Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099 is iconic. Um, I think one thing about this, and um, as a lot of our listeners have heard from me, I work in educational technology. But before I worked in educational technology, I worked in healthcare. Specifically, I worked in dialysis, working with kidneys, went to nursing school and everything else. So, hearing of the health issues that he had and everything going on with his kidneys and things like that, I had a little bit more of an attunement to it because I've watched patients over the years go through stuff like this. And I think that it is absolutely tragic. And this is a reason why I consistently push when it comes to contracted services and things like that, making sure that they are still able to get benefits and things like that. Because for such an iconic person within the comic book creator community to not be able to get the health care that he desperately needed because, again, they are basically contracted services, especially during his run. It was contract work. They don't have that access, and that really sucks. And it hurts my heart to see such a beloved creator go through something like that when a basic right should be given.
Yeah, I know the you hear. I know a lot of the stuff when Marvel put out the news of remembering him and everything like that. It was a lot of hatred towards them. It's one of these things that some people don't understand is that the reason the GoFundMe was put out the last couple of years is because he'd maxed out his insurance. Like the insurance would go, and as David attests to, kidney disease is very expensive. Lots of nursing care, which many aspects are not covered by insurance. Could Marvel have done more? Probably. I don't know. If they don't pay, we know, and on the off chance they don't pay the creators what they should, what we all think they deserve. Look at everything that has been tied to him that has been put on screen in some way, shape, or form. Guarantee whatever he was getting paid was not enough. But the fact that when you put on these collected editions, having his name on it means he'll get more. His widow, his family will get more for this. If the name wasn't on it, it's a whole different ballgame in the sense of compensation. So the fact that they can do more. I don't know what else because I'm not in that company. But again, it's very tough to say that both companies can do more. They should do more for these creators, whether it be better insurance, helping them out, contributing to GoFundMe. I don't know, but it is an unfortunate case of why health insurance in this country is so just screwed up at that point. And it's very, like I said, it's weird when your creations are generating billions of dollars, you're not getting paid what you should to even help you live. It's something to be looked at. We've talked about it in this show many different times. We've talked about how creators are not being honored, but this is David Desir's chance to say thank you, Peter David. Our hearts, our thoughts and prayers go out to you and your family. Your creations will be forever loved. And you know what? David, maybe looking at his Hulk run, maybe a very quick and future comic book club coming soon at that point. So,
Definitely.
but hate to start off the news like that, but I think it's always great to honor our rest in power, Peter David. The impact you've had on this industry will never be forgotten at that point. So no easy transition to that, but but we will try. And the news that broke when we literally decided, David, to not go last week, Marvel says, "All right, well, we're gonna drop something." But this story is something that we've been talking about, hinting around, and I'm not surprised by it. But it definitely wasn't enough to carry a show. So what happened last week as we were heading into the holiday weekend, coming from Deadline, that Marvel Studios has decided to push back both Avengers movies that were coming out soon. They are pushing the release back of Avengers Doomsday from May 1st to December 18th, 2026. And Avengers Secret War will be moving from May 7th to December 17th, 2027. So moving a couple of months back. Insiders noted that these two films are among the biggest ever made, and delays are simply to allow more time to execute on a gargantuan vision and most likely the VFX. Disney and Marvel elected to December dates given the success that they've had in the holiday corridor with Spider-Man No Way Home, Avengers Doomsday, and the Avatar movies, since they are the production arm, their release and production arm of that. Also important to remember that both of these two major sequels are set to hit theaters on Doomsday's current date. The same date Doomsday releases is currently Doom Messiah and Ice Age 6. Even though Doomsday would unquestionably be the biggest film on any given release date, many will wonder exactly A, will Disney hold this, and B, if they are going to hold it, um, is Dune and Ice Age going to switch? And so let's start there. David, first, are you surprised by these movements?
I'm not surprised by these movements, and I'm actually quite pleased with these movements. As much as I want to have these movies come out as soon as possible, clamoring for them, um, if it takes longer to get it done and get it done right, then take the time to get it done and get it done right. I'm all for that. And I also think, like we alluded to earlier with that story, the December timeframe goes good for them, um, especially because you can get a hot start, and then if your movie is in theaters for at least 3 or 4 weeks, then you can get a rebound with those going on Christmas break. So it's just a good time to get not only watchers, but also repeat watchers. Where summertime is, I think, a little bit harder with people planning vacations, getting out, getting about. Plus, it's just nice. It's beautiful out. You want to be outside, not in the movie theaters as much. So I think the December option is good.
Mhm. And I know people are saying, "Hey, it could be the new Barbenheimer, Avengers Messiah, or whatever they want to call it, Dune Vengers." I don't think that this is something that either studio is going to want, considering that Dune Messiah is not even in production yet. Um, Demi is going to be very meticulous in saying that he definitely will not be bullied by WB to put out an inferior product by any stretch of the imagination, considering how well, despite the lack of Oscar recognition for what he was able to achieve with Dune Part Two, I could easily see Warner Brothers saying, "Nope, we're not gonna pit them against you," because again, they're gonna take from each other's box office. And if I have to say push comes to shove, despite what's going on with the MCU, despite the quote unquote box office not necessarily equating to what people would want, this is something that is more than likely I can see Dune moving and Ice Age moving. I think people are just going to get out of the way of the Avengers, despite it's the Avengers. You can put the big A out there. They're going to want to come and see it. And as Julio says in the chat, a big win for VFX art. Actually, this is interesting timing for VFX art because they have just agreed to a new union contract with Marvel Studios with a lot of different stuff. And that was interesting timing because I think that contract came out either a couple of days before this announcement made or a week before the movement was made. And I think, hey, if it ends up being as a result of the agreements that were made with the VFX artists, is it a perfect contract? No, it's not. But it's something that is a step in the right direction for them. And again, if we want the quality product, we need to, as we just said with Peter David, we need to pay these people. We need to respect what they do in the craft and not overwork them. Because again, in the end, say what you want about the studios, there are boycott things like that, but you have to understand there's other people who are behind this that depend on this, but it is at no cost to them to pay them what they need to do to live and treat them with like respect of a human being and not work them to death, because in the end it's not going to create the product, it's not going to be welcomed, and it's going to continue creating a vicious circle of something that we need to bring to a stop in Hollywood.
I definitely agree. Give the people everything that they need to allow that time, to allow them to create something great. It reminds me of, I watched a documentary a couple of years ago on the video game studio Bungie, who was the original
Oh God,
creators of
yeah.
Halo, and what their artists went through. And so whenever I hear the stories about these VFX artists, I think about that, the forced long nights, the having to be away from your family for 2 or 3 weeks at a time while you're sleeping underneath your cubicle to crank this out. No one should have to go through that. Give them more time, allow that to happen. To your earlier point, I do see both Dune and Ice Age moving and accommodating for that spot. Um, Dune's going to do well regardless of where it's at. I don't think it needs that Christmas break spot. Same thing with Ice Age. You could literally push Ice Age back a month and put it in January. People are still going to go. A,
De-
they love the franchise. B, the kids are going to want to see it. You're
and
going to,
and depending on like a summer release, they could move it to a summer release and just be a summer animated stuff, because people were saying like, what is there to be right now in the summer outside of Lilo and Stitch? There's nothing right now.
yeah.
So um,
So,
yeah, it works out. So right now the MCU release schedule is as follows: we have Fantastic Four: First Steps, July 25th. Spider-Man: Brand New Day, July 31st, 2026, followed by, as we just said, Doomsday in December of 18th, 2026. So next year, we are now at 2 movies again. And 2027, right now, only 1 movie slated for 2027 at that point. So, what they were talking about, the rumors of Brand New Day, is it will be happening, what the events of Brand New Day are happening in concurrency with Doomsday. So we'll see this exactly. So when you have no officially announced movie in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, there's an opening there. What do they want to do? There's possibilities on all ends of that. We'll just have to see. But yes, this is a win for us. This is a win for the VFX. This is a we delaying a movie is never a bad thing if it gets us the time they need to put out the quality product. And let's just say, considering how rocky the saga has been, these 3 phases, they need to bring this. They need to do this right and do whatever they can to land the plane as best they can without looking like they're coming tumbling down.
yeah, give them time to make it the epic that people are wanting and expecting.
Hmm. So, all right. Well, with that, we are going to take our first ad break for the show. So, as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They could be a bit loud. So give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So we move on from official news at that point to the rumor mill. And this is coming as an exclusive from Nexus Point News. They are very much known for breaking. They've been able to break a number of scoops and over the years. So I would put them as a kind of a. We put them on the Travis Snell scale. I'd say a C plus B minus scooper right now. They've done some good work. They've got whatever the source they got. They've been tracking some good stuff. But they are putting out there that Mark Ruffalo is set to return as Bruce Banner in Spider-Man: Brand New Day. So they can exclusively report that he is set to reprise his role as Bruce Banner in Spider-Man: Brand New Day. It is currently unknown what role Banner will play in the story, or whether he'll also be portraying his alternate green persona, the Incredible Hulk, or at this point, as we know, Smart Hulk. They can confirm Bruce Banner's appearance will be much larger than a cameo, and Ruffalo will have a substantial role in the film. Spider-Man: Brand New Day will be Ruffalo's 10th appearance in a mainline MCU project, which will be followed shortly after by Avengers: Doomsday and Avengers: Secret War, respectively. Now, this was followed up, I think, a few hours later by Josh from the Den of Nerds that put this out on the same day. A second person just confirmed Incredible Hulk is the villain of Brand New Day. Probably not Maestro, but definitely think Savage Hulk is back. So um, take that for what you will. And so let's kind of look at this idea of the Spider-Man movies have typically, since Homecoming, they've always had some sort of MCU mainstay join Peter. We've had Tony Stark in the first one. We had Nick Fury in Far From Home. We had Doctor Strange in No Way Home. And now with Brand New Day, we have Bruce Banner. And I don't know necessarily if Josh from Den of Nerds is putting out this idea that he's going to turn into a villain. I know the controversy surrounding people's dislike of Smart Hulk, Professor Hulk, what have you. Would I like to see quote unquote Savage Hulk come back? Yes, I think the time has come to bring back the Hulk that we began with at that point. Um, I just I don't know this one. I'm not as excited about this idea. I'm more of like saying, it doesn't get me excited for it because I'm just not feeling it. I don't know. What do you feel, David?
As much as I would like the return of Savage Hulk, I don't see where that would fit into a Spider-Man story. Um, Especially for what this next Spider-Man is titled and for what it seems like the direction that they're going. I think any battles with the Hulk as Savage Hulk would be kind of shoehorned in just for that sake. So I could see it more being there's an interaction or he turns to uh, Bruce Banner for help with whatever is needed, and you have that crossover there. But I don't see a situation where I can't envision a situation where Hulk is playing a big factor in this movie.
It especially the whole idea of a villain necessarily against Spider-Man. It's just like I just don't like that idea necessarily, especially when we were taking the literally the idea of calling it Brand New Day. Brand New Day, the arc, the years long arc of Brand New Day introduced so many different characters. What you and I talked about, one of the biggest ones that was introduced is Mr. Negative. There you go.
Yeah,
you know, um, I just now could he be control? Could something happen and Mr. Negative get control of Bruce Banner, turn him into Savage Hulk? It could be. I just don't like to see this. It just I can't see it right now. I'm
yeah,
not saying it's over. Brand New Day is going to be terrible. It's just right now, especially if Josh from Den and Geek is to be believed, saying like his sources are saying he's going to be the main villain. I don't know. They have so much other things. Look at how many different things you could bring in from Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery alone. You have all these toys. Why are we going to do this? You
yeah.
know?
It's easier in a comic book setting to do a one-off where out of nowhere Hulk is back smashing up the streets and Spider-Man has to stop him, and it's not really explained until the end with a one-off of how he went from being Smart Hulk back to Savage Hulk. Oh, he was tricked by someone or someone did something, and that's why, with no explanation in the beginning, we just have Spider-Man versus Hulk. But in a MCU cinema setting, you need that setup, you need that explanation, and I think that that would take too much away from the overall story with um, Brand New Day just to insert the Hulk in there.
Yeah. So I guess we'll have to see exactly what it is, but I do like. I mean, what I it's not just a cameo. Maybe we could see him being Bruce Banner, the Professor, in the sense of him being able to revert back even more to human form, so that he could necessarily, um, maybe be helping Peter out. But I did like the comic panel in the sense of, because we know nobody's supposed to know who Peter is. Well, there's a comic panel that has been circulating where he's Hulk and he calls him Peter and he's like, wait a minute, how do you remember? And he goes, Banner forgot, Hulk never forgets.
Yeah,
You know, so they could do something like that, but we'll just have to see if Nexus Point News got this one right. That's with typical with Spider-Man movies. They're gonna hold this one close to the chest probably until they have to. So, all right. So moving on to our final story for the evening. Um, this is something that I'm glad is finally coming out there. This is coming from EW, put out the exclusive. Entertainment Weekly put out the exclusive that Marvel and DC's next comic book crossover has been revealed. So back in February, Comics Pro panel in Glendale, California, the editors in chief of Marvel and DC revealed that they were quietly assembling something they hadn't pulled off in more than 2 decades, a crossover event, which got us all excited. Just like losing our minds because we haven't had a crossover of this scale in many years. I've also been sitting on a lot of this information that I was not allowed to share too. Some of the information of what's going on, and there's still some information that I know that I'm not talking about in this show because that's not for me to reveal. But I'm glad that some of this is coming out there and confirming what I was told, that DC and Marvel are going to be putting out a crossover. This is started way back in 1976 with Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man. And then the last time this was done was JLA Avengers, which was the last major crossover of putting the both teams against each other in different ways. But it hasn't been a collaboration of this magnitude ever. A lot of things have begun to align. Dan Buckley, the president of Marvel Entertainment, explains that mostly we plan on our editorial schedule to pretty far out. DC does their schedule pretty far out as well. You want to have the right talent involved because this type of thing, you want to elevate it as much as you can. Jim Lee, chief creative officer and publisher for DC Comics, echoes that, saying, they work 2 to 3 years in advance in their storylines. It happens kind of once in a generation of readers. I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions as to why. The timing has to be right in that you don't want these too often. You want them to feel special. It's sort of finding the right moment for both companies to come together because it's complex. There's a lot of coordination, collaboration, lawyers, and obviously the business side since you're sharing revenue. But it's also a big deal. So you want the story to be creatively to warrant the hype and all. So at this time, they revealed in it, here is the first crossover that is going to be put out by the companies. It is to be Deadpool and Batman is going to be the first crossover comic put out by Marvel Studios. So the first one is coming. This is going to be done on the Marvel side. That Zeb Wells, the Spider-Man scribe, who recently worked on Deadpool and Wolverine, and will pen this one shot on the Marvel side with veteran artist for not only for Marvel but also Batman, Greg Capullo, who just
Yes.
recently worked on Wolverine Revenge. And this is officially set to release on September 17th, and it tells how Wade Wilson is hired for a job in Gotham City that puts him in the crosshairs of the world's greatest detective. Accompanying the main one-shot will be a lineup of backup adventures that features exciting Marvel and DC character matchups according to an official description. However, details of what that entails, including the creative teams, will be shared on a later date. After writing Spider-Man for 60 years, I told Marvel I needed a break, Zeb Wells tells EW in a statement. Marvel told me I could do that, or I could write a comic starring Deadpool and Batman with the best Batman artist of our generation. I no longer needed a break. In Batman, we found someone that has less time for Deadpool's antics than Wolverine. But a citywide threat from the Joker makes strange bedfellows, literally if Deadpool had his way. It's a blast letting Deadpool let loose in Gotham and see what happens. Greg Capullo also released a statement saying, "Am I dreaming? This crossover seems like a high point of my career, and I've got a great career." The artist adds that some of my earliest work many years ago was on X-Force, so Deadpool and I go way back. More recently, I spent 10 plus years drawing Batman at DC with Scott Snyder. The idea that I get to do a crossover event with Deadpool and Batman, if I'm dreaming, please don't wake me. So this is the first one. So this comes out in September. This November, the follow-up, Batman and Deadpool. This will be released by DC Comics. This team is another powerhouse from the DC side. This will be Grant Morrison will be writing, and he'll be joined by DC powerhouse artist Dan Mora. So, Morrison said in a statement that I don't do many comics these days, but there was no way I could turn this down and work with Dan Moore again, one of my all-time favorite artist collaborators. Um, and they said that I could turn down Batman and I couldn't turn down Batman and Deadpool. They said in a statement that expect fourth wall busting mayhem and blood, blades, and at least one giant typewriter. Dan Mora writes that this is more than I ever imagined I could do in my career, and it is a huge honor to be a part of the crossover. It doesn't happen too often, and I am a huge Deadpool fan. When I first worked with Grant, I didn't know what to expect, but it was an incredible team up. I've always hoped to work with Grant again, and working on Batman Deadpool seems like a dream come true, a once in a lifetime experience. So again, September we get the first part, and then November we get the second part of this. This is, like I said, there's a lot more coming.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how much more is coming. I know some information that is going to be happening because this goes until next year. There's a few team ups that are there's a lot coming from this, and some of the team ups and some of the creators I know, they're not kidding around with my opinion on Zeb Wells, his Spider-Man run. Zeb Wells is a great writer. Spider-Man was not his thing. I just he's done so much better things. I think that this recent run on Spider-Man just not great. But the idea of this combination, I don't know what I mean. What's your level of excitement for this as our first crossover?
Greg Capullo has probably been my favorite Batman artist since Jim Lee. And for those who don't know that much about him, if you know Batman, the whole Court of Owls story, the Return joke, like Death of the Family, all these things, that is his artwork. And it is absolutely just amazing. So I very much look forward to seeing his take on this. He also did work on Spawn and, as you said, Wolverine as well. So I'm highly looking forward to it. Hoping that Zeb Wells can come up with some great writing to so that they can play off of each other. And then you throw Grant Morrison in the mix on the next issue. New X-Men, his run on JLA, like I
Their
loved
run,
his
their run,
run
their run.
on JLA, and um, everything that I've heard so far of what's coming and just off of these two issues. Like I said, so much more, but everything that I've seen just from these two, it has me excited that this is not something that is going to be played around with.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that as a get up here on screen, like if you want to see the beginnings of these crossovers, DC put this out this past year. DC versus Marvel. This is the original. All the most I'd say all most of the original crossovers put out in this collection at this point. The originals at this point, going from the very first one was Superman versus Amazing Spider-Man, Batman Punisher, Spider-Man and Batman, Green Lantern, Silver Surfer. Like some of these are some of the best here, and then they put out at the beginning of this, at the end of last year as well, the amalgam, the basically the cash grab of all crossovers with combining, literally combining characters. This is where we got Dark Claw, Spider Boy, Doctor Strange Fate. So I mean, these collections are still out there. You can still get them. It's a lot of fun. But just to have this stuff, and like I said, with what's coming next year, with the next set of crossovers at that point, it's gonna be fun. This is great stuff, and you're all gonna be for a fun ride. That's all I gotta say to that. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's and people say like, oh, one of the biggest things in the collecting world is like, oh, they're gonna re-put out JLA Avengers like they did with George Perez. Well, that was an act of Congress to get that done, and that was to help pay for George Perez's help him pay for his medical bills through the Hero Initiative. This takes a lot. As I said, it takes a 2 to 3 year. This is how far ahead they plan, and for both companies to agree to it, it's a lot. It takes a lot of lawyers, a lot of business deals, how it's shared, how it's done. So Never say never, but people say, "What about the movies?" One step at a time. I think the movies are a big, even taller order at that point.
That when it comes to the movies, you don't just have two companies and how pay splits and things like that. You start getting into different studios, different distributing rights, everything else. Who's under contract here versus who's under contract there. Like we've seen what goes on just within the Marvel community alone with the use of Spider-Man. We can't use him here. We can't. Do we want to use our one of our five here? Do we want to use like when you start going cross promotion on that big of a scale? And do we really trust WB to work with anybody correctly? It's gonna, yeah, I don't see a movie adaptation, but you know what? I will take these comics all day, every day.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to it. Again, it's people can easily call it a gimmick, but no, pun intended for your title, but they can call it again. Yes, it is on its simplest form. It's a gimmick, but again, last time it's happened, it's been a very long time, so we never know how this is gonna go again. But let's just enjoy the ride, right? So
Exactly.
I know our buddy Brent was saying, are they gonna hit Marvel Unlimited and DC Infinite? We'll have to see.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what part of the deal is worked out at that point. But all right, well, that is all the news for this week. So let us take our last ad break for the evening before we get into listener feedback and fact or fiction. So, as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so we've got some listener questions coming up. So, David, want to take the first one up while I pull up our rest of our
All
stuff?
all right. First question from the show, Phil. He says, "Yeah, can I come on and talk about how Batman is going to clown Deadpool every step of the way? In all seriousness, do you think this will be inclusive of their enemies? What villains and antagonists do you think could show up to supplement this wacky crossover?" Um, well, we've already mentioned the Joker showing up, which any interaction between the Joker and Deadpool is going to be just future iconic. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have Slade Wilson show up. Yeah, you have to have that moment as well. I need a Slade versus Wade standoff at some point.
I also, it's not an antagonist, but I would love to see Cable a part of this because Cable and Deadpool's illustrious run together. I mean, you just got to have it.
Yeah,
But villain on the Marvel side that could come in at that point. Um, in Gotham, it'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating to see like who's contracted way to do this.
yeah. The Marvel villains are a little bit harder to pick and choose from just because of their scope. Like for something happening centrally in Gotham, um, a lot of the Marvel villains are more of I'm trying to take over the world outside of your kingpins and things like that. And there's no scenario where I think Kingpin is involved with this, but it it'll be interesting to see who and what they pull out of Marvel to cross over. I do think that it would be funny if there was a scene with Wolverine where he knows Batman is Bruce Wayne only because of the smell.
Well, it's one of those interesting things. Like I was kind of thinking about where like some of the a couple of ideas that I would love to see possibly come out of this of like crossovers for who could team up. One of the ones I thought about was Hellblazer and the Punisher would
Oh,
be, in my opinion, a lot of fun. How about we get Green Lantern, Silver Surfer, Teen Titans, Young Avengers, one that's kind of really if you had Justice League Avengers, how about Justice League X Men? You know, but I will say this: it is a controversial miniseries, the Doomsday Clock. Jeff Johns put something out there in Doomsday Clock, and have the panel up right now. It says, one of the last issues said, like, on July 10th, 2030, the Secret Crisis begins, throwing Superman into a brawl across the universe with Thor himself and a green behemoth stronger than even Doomsday, who dies protecting Superman from these invaders. In its wake, Superman's timeline shifts forward again. Are they going to be possibly paying this idea off, or was this still this simply a throwaway initiative? Throwaway idea. I don't know. I thought I started to think about that, and I'm not the only one who's thinking about that.
If they are playing the long game to that degree, bravo. Bravo.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning as well. But yeah, I think all the villains on that, but I'm with David on this one. I think it's harder because just Deadpool doesn't have a long, like, it's hard to name many Deadpool villains necessarily that could come into play, but I think depending on the other Marvel characters that could be involved in possible other one-shot crossovers, they might have a better chance of bringing in some villains on that side. So we'll see.
Yeah. So, and then our next question we have from Joe saying, do you think we will get arrogant Reed Richards in Fantastic Four First Steps? I'm currently reading some 1970s Fantastic Four issues for an upcoming episode, and man, he is an arrogant SOB. My thoughts on that is you will absolutely get arrogant Reed Richards. I don't think it will be as over the top as the comics, but there's going to be some moments when you're like, God, you are such a smug. Like, that will come across. I think this is one of the things that you can transport between every iteration of Reed Richards. This isn't like they've talked about with Johnny Storm not being the womanizer and things like that. Like, I get dropping that off, but the arrogance, I don't care if this is the 60s, the 70s, the 2000s, or the 2020s. Like, he can be arrogant across any timeline, and it works for Reed Richards. So we're going to get some arrogance. You're going to get some comments where you're just like, you pretentious so and so.
I think when it always comes down to it, Reed's always going to be arrogant because he's always that's who he is in a sense at that point. So yes, I think we're going to get an arrogant Reed. But I think as we even see in the trailer when he says, are we going to beat this thing and or are we going to survive? I can't remember the line, but he says, I don't know. Reed's never been that, that's not the Reed Richards in the sense of like always cocky and arrogant. I think I think we're going to see a combination of Reed being unsure of himself versus the know-it-all. So I think, there's a balance to that they're going to bring to that. But yeah, those 1970s Fantastic Four, yeah, he thinks he's the bee's knees, as it were. So, but we'll have to see. So, but yep, thank you all for those questions this week. And let me pull up the Factor Fictions from 2 weeks ago that I put out there. So, number one, we will see Charlie Cox and Ben Affleck as their respective Daredevils on screen in Avengers Secret Wars. 25% said fact, 75 say fiction. Number two, they will not refer to Nick Cage's character as Spider-Man in Spider Noir. 85% said fact, 15% said fiction. And number three, Ironheart will only appear in one more project before the end of Phase 6. 73% said fact, 27% said fiction. So they feel Ironheart is going to get one more appearance. So outside your series. So, all right, David, you're up this week. What you got?
Okay, so my first one is an original Avenger will die within the first 15 minutes of Doomsday. We're going Loki style here.
Yeah, I was about to say. An original Avenger. Well, did we you're gonna put Clint Barton out of his misery after that. How Disney pays him back at that point. I don't know if he's gonna be open to doing that, considering if they Disney wasn't gonna pay him for a second season.
Here's your money, but we get to kill you off immediately.
Yeah. Um, I could see it. I could see it, considering that you know we not knowing what's going to come from Fantastic Four First Steps. If that's going to be our first appearance of Doom in a post credit scene, we're not going to see him fully in action again until Doomsday. The question is, will it be earned? You know?
Yeah. Um, that is a very good question. I could definitely see it being the shock and awe death, the something that, everyone's talking about going into it type deal. So I don't know, but I just have a feeling that they're gonna start off out the gate taking out somebody's favorite.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily. Like, I hate to say like any of them are expendable because one of them, it's they're not gonna. I mean, Cap's already dead, so who's left? You've got Thor, you've got Bruce, um, and you've got Clint. Is that it?
Yeah, because Natasha's in the Soul Stone.
Yeah, it's man. I I could see it, but it's just I just don't see Thor and Bruce going out like that, and I don't know if Jeremy Renner is going to be brought. I mean, money can buy everything, but it's just I don't know. Can I see it happening? Yes. I just don't. What I don't want to hear is like, oh, it's just like Infinity War. They're just happen. They can do it, but I want them. I'd rather them not keep on going back to the same thing they did before. Do something different.
Yeah.
Kill someone else. I don't know, but I think an original Avenger right now, I think that can be something later on in the film that you can take out someone that early on. I think that's a cheap, and I think we want to see these characters one more time for a little bit longer. I think someone that I'm not saying Taskmaster level, but I don't know. The more I'm thinking about, I'm gonna say fiction on this one.
All right. Second one is we will get a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before the end of Secret Wars appearing.
Goodness gracious, the hope that will keep not die. Man, we thought we had it there with Secret Invasion, and then that shit has ripped our hearts out. Um, is Quake finally gonna appear? At this point, I don't know. I would I love to see it, yes, but I don't think it's happening. I think Agent of Shield is done. I would love to see Chloe Bennett come back as Quake, but I think that ship has long unfortunately sailed.
Yeah. I mean, I, the more I think about it, and again, everyone wants Chloe Bennett as Quake. There is an encounter with Quake going undercover with some other heroes and going into Latveria and causing some chaos. So, like, we have a chance. We have a chance. They could pull that out, and we could have that chance. So I'm hoping for it. Not too strong on this one, but I'm hoping for it.
Well, we'll see. Again, I would like to be proven wrong on that one. So,
All right.
all right, what you got for your last one?
And my last one is a far out of left field reference, and it is literally just a when I was pulling up Fantastic Four to get it queued up so that I could watch it this week. There was a video for another old Marvel project, and it made me think about this. So, number three is we will get a cameo from David Hasselhoff as a version of Nick Fury.
Could they do it? Yeah, I could see them doing something like that. I could see them having a quick little thing. Uh,
I
hmm.
I I see it more so as like the sequence from The Flash, where it's just the quick blurbs of the
Yeah.
different universes, and you get it there. Like I this isn't going to be a walk-on speaking role. It's going to be like the fan service of Nick Cage's Superman. But I had almost forgot about that his time as Nick Fury until it appeared right underneath the suggestions when I was looking up Fantastic Four.
Yeah. I that's as far as I see it too at that point. So I'll say, yeah, that one, I'm gonna go fiction, but it's got like 51% fiction at that point. It's like right on the edge.
Yeah, like I said, it's a shot out of left field, but I'm all
you
for
want
the possibility.
you wanted to see the Hoff.
I because no one hassles the Hoff, especially an eye patched Hoff.
Well, we'll have to see. But all right, well, I will post those on Sunday afternoon, so let your voices be heard for that. So we will restart Compa Club next week. We will begin with issue 1, a Fantastic Four life story. That'll be 6 issues for us. So again, fetch that on Marvel Unlimited or wherever you get it, or if you have it in physical form, get it. But we will start with our first issue looking at Fantastic Four life story. So again, for those that did not know we were going to be doing this, so again, it is a comic book miniseries that each issue is a decade in real time. So the heroes are going to age in real time and take them through the events of their lives through real time. So I'm looking forward to it. It's our kind of run up to Fantastic Four First Steps. So I'm looking forward to reading it. And yep, so we're gonna move forward to that. So, well, volume 261 in the books, and we will see what news comes next week. So, David, tell people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on all socials at the Phantom, as listed below for those who are watching. You can follow me here on the Geekverse Network. I uh, co-host a wrestling show called The Gimmick. We will be going live again this Sunday with some thoughts on Money in the Bank and our draft that we've going on. And we've got another live stream of WWE 2K25 coming up soon that we will get scheduled. So, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Very cool. Yep, check it out. And so, yes, you can follow me on all the socials at Chris Balga. And you can also catch me every Saturday on the Brave and the Boys YouTube channel for the Organic Price Books Weekly Buyer's Guide. And as always, I want to thank them for being our sponsor. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, or MGUA SIT for 5% off for 4 or more books. And you can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, David, post-credits discussion. What you got for me tonight?
Okay, so for our post credits discussion, um, it was just talked about in that Variety's Actors on Actors has revealed its latest lineup. Discussing Film put out the tweet and listed some of those who are going to be on there, including Colin Farrell and Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Seth Rogen, Jason Segel, just and the list goes on. We found this interesting because with Colin Farrell and Danny DeVito, you have Penguin on Penguin. So, with that being said, I started to think, uh, what two different versions of Marvel characters would we like to see have in actors on actors? So I've got some simple ones, and then I have a real fun one.
I want to see all living Spider-Man together. All of them. Anyone who's portrayed Spider-Man. I want to. I want to hear. I want to do 2 different. I want all the live action ones together. Do that, actors on actors, and I want the voice actors to get together and do one in actors on actors for that. I think that would be very cool to see all that.
Yeah. Oh, that is definitely a good one. I would love going back to wrestling. They used to do this short form thing. It was called Table for Three, where they would get three wrestlers who had something similar in common or used to tag together, something like that. They'd bring them together, they would have dinner and basically just like exchange stories. Like if you did that with the three Spider-Men, give me that for 2.5 hours
Yeah.
and I will sit there and watch it. Like that is a good one. Um, I had originally thought about, the two Hulks. You got your Ed Norton, you got
Yeah.
your Mark Ruffalo, because they're so different. But then I started thinking a really, really fun one would be a four for two, and that would be Michael B. Jordan and Chris Evans, two people who both played two different roles.
Hmm. Yep. How about this? And I'll get another one for you. Ben Affleck, Charlie Cox.
That I would take that all day.
Another one. How about? Unfortunately, we don't have all the Punishers with us anymore, but I would love to see the Punishers getting together. At that point, you have Thomas Jane, Dolph Lundgren, and our now, you know, our top one right now in my books. So
Yeah. Up until John Bernthal, Thomas Jane was my favorite iteration of
yep,
the
I would agree
Punisher.
with that.
Like I absolutely, as over the top as John Travolta is in that movie, I absolutely loved that movie. And so yeah, that was a good one. I thought about Jessica Alba and Vanessa Kirby. Just you've got so many possibilities on having just your own Marvel version of actors on actors.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool. I like that idea, but I always look forward to the actors and actors, some great kind of candid conversations. I think one of my favorite ones from, I think it was last year. It was with Tom Hiddleston and the actress name escapes me right now, but she played one of the leads in Shogun, and the conversation that he asked her about like how has been the reception among uh, Asian women to her portrayal, and she had a very real moment in tears and just saying like how much they were so impressed and honored by her portrayal of that. Those real moments, you really. I look forward to those kind of things, and plus the banter back and forth. Especially what was it last year? Kieran Culkin and Colin Domingo about how they prepare at the beginning of the day.
Yes.
That's a, said,
The whole
when do you sleep?
routine.
When do you sleep? I don't. I said, what do you mean you don't sleep? It's like,
Like I
yeah,
need my 8 hours.
I know, yeah, and I'm like, I'm calling Domingo in that sense, that way. But so yeah, always check it out. But yeah, fun question. Maybe we'll get those kind of ideas. Who knows? But all right, we will hopefully see you next week for the next episode of Marvel Alliance. We'll see you later, guys. Bye bye.
See ya.